In any event, I believe we have Joie Tyrell with us.
Yes, I'm here.
Hello, how are you, Joie?
Hi, good. How are you?
Okay, it's Friday again. I'm super.
Yes.
Well, wow, what got going on here? Long Island is on the lookout for substitute teachers.
Yes, that is a story that I reported last week,
okay.
And there's a number of school districts across the island that are having trouble filling substitute teaching slots. And these slots are, sometimes they have what they call permanent substitutes, which are hired for a longer period of time, and or a per day substitute, which is, if a teacher calls out sick just for a day, they'll call in somebody for a daily substitute.
Right.
But there seems to be a shortage, and the districts are trying to get creative. But there are rules that govern who can sub in a school district, so it gets a little difficult.
Wow.
And another thing that's happening with it is that the city has increased its subsidies for substitutes, and it's so if you're in a Nassau County substitute, you could drive over the border and make more money than you would if you were working in a local district. So there's a lot of factors at play.
Wow. So it's not just that they don't have the bodies that are capable, it's that they're not getting them.
Right. And what's going on is that there's an overall teacher shortage. If you look at enrollment in education programs statewide, that number has been dropping, I think, by more than 40% in the past, 10 or so years.
Of teachers?
Of students who want to become teachers.
Oh.
Right. Who pick education as a major.
Okay.
So you have a shortage of new teachers coming out because a lot of new teachers, they substitute because to them it's a foot in the door. If I work in this district, the principal will get to know me, the officials will get to know me, and I'll get hired.
Right.
But if you have fewer people going into teaching, the pool gets smaller.
Wow. And,
yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, you did the research, and I know, boy, do you think it is in general because of the state of education today?
Well, you know what? It's interesting because some of the superintendents that I interviewed, they had said that they believe it's because some of them, not all of them, some of them said that, teaching teachers have had a rough time lately. There's been a lot of bashing of those in the education profession. There's been a lot more pressure with the way state tests have been tied to teacher evaluations. I know that's on hold right now, but there's been a lot of change and upheaval in the industry. But what's also really driving it is that a number of school districts have declining enrollment. And also back in 2008, in the recession, they were cutting, they weren't hiring. A number of them went to, half-day kindergarten and things like that. So there weren't the jobs. So when kids started to go to school, they weren't really thinking about teaching as a career for economic reasons. But that seems to have changed. And also, another thing that's happening, according to some of my sources, is that a lot of the teachers are hitting retirement age. So you're having turnover, of the older teachers without that much of a fresh crop to replace them. So that's what's going. So it's a multi-pronged reason why there's a shortage.
Right. Well, yeah. Oh, I think when young people are in college, when they're in college and they're picking a career,
right.
There's, I think lately, and maybe in the last 10 years, there's been quite a decent attack on unions.
Right.
And I think because teachers they bargain for good benefits.
Right.
And people begrudge them that. I think that's a shame, because they had the foresight to get together, which is the only way you have power in this country, is to get together and form some kind of union. People who have money and the wherewithal can buy all kinds of campaigns to get you to believe things that are against your own best interests.
Yeah.
I think most of us are victims of that. Yeah. It's a shame, though, to think that all the rigmarole that's going on in the education department. Personally, I think Diane Ravitch ought to be the education secretary in the United States. Someone that actually has experience in the field of education. Wouldn't that be a novel idea? But instead, we have what we have, and I think that all of those things reflect on the future. You know, if we really have a shortage of teachers, we could come to a point in the future where a decision will be made for us about how teaching happens. I think ideally that any company, you know, right now teaching is, or the idea of school is public, and we are leaning toward privatizing everything we can get our hands on. And if that ever happens with schools, it'll be a real shame. Because I think what they'll replace a teacher with is somebody who hands out and collects dittos. For probably a $20 an hour salary, which they may think at the time is great. You know, it's kind of like, I mean, the idea here on Long Island, we're all applauding the idea of a $15 minimum wage. But nobody can live on that. Where in this country can you? And when it goes up to $35, you know, 100 years from now, you won't be able to live on that either. You know, it's ludicrous what we do. But I don't know. That's a sad state of affairs. And do you think that they can't find substitutes? Is that just the first little signal that we are in the future going to look at a real teacher shortage?
Well, I think we are looking at a teacher shortage. I mean, the state's union, the biggest teachers union, New York State United Teachers, is actually holding forums and seminars throughout the state because they're trying to encourage people to get into the profession. And even in my story, like the William Floyd School District, which is out in eastern Suffolk County, they held like a career day for high school kids and brought them in to talk to them about education. So I think there are efforts underway to try and boost the ranks of teachers. I think that, you know, like I said, there are steps being taken, and maybe it's something that's cyclical, that, you know, if there is a wave of retirements and then there's an economic incentive to become a teacher, then maybe that will start to pick up. It was interesting because after the story ran, I heard from a couple of people who have worked as long-time substitutes, and they said they were unhappy because they feel that the districts were keeping these long-term substitutes in place instead of hiring, because it's much cheaper to have a permanent sub than a full-time teacher in the classroom. That
could be. My crystal ball tells me that in a little while we could be looking at the perfect storm of not enough teachers, and not so a situation that's so messed up that somebody will step in and fix it, and not necessarily to our liking.
Well,
Well, the clock on the wall is telling me I got to get out of here. Okay. So I thank you for calling in, and hopefully we can talk a little more about this.
Okay, thanks very much.
Thank
you.
You have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Okay, Bye-bye. Take care. And again, we want to thank Newsday and all the reporters who do call us and talked about the stories that they've researched.